So, good morning, everybody. It's better to use this? Is this working? Hello? Yes? Okay, fine. Good. So, good morning, everybody. I'm Gertrud Ingestad. I'm Director General for the IT Department of the European Commission. That means working on the internal administration from an IT perspective, also digitization, modernization of the Commission's administration, but also with the member states on the ISA program that some of you may know about, the interoperability solutions for administrations, which looks at how administrations can become more interoperable and taking forward solutions for to help administrations. So we're talking a lot with member states around a borderless digital information society. So today I'm going to be quite concrete. I'm going to talk about how we use analytics as a driver for modernization of our organization. Like most other organizations, the Commission is trying to transform itself into a modern, data-driven, digitized organization. One of the starting points for us was our former Vice President, Kristalina Georgieva, who talked about how important important an asset is information and data management for the Commission. And especially for us, we are building our whole activities around data and information and knowledge. So this is really crucial and strategically important for us in order to be able to do our job properly. So that means that we have to manage very, very carefully data, and we come from the same situation as most other organizations. It's very scattered, we don't have access to everything, it's fragmented, and we needed to start somewhere. So what are the drivers? I mentioned briefly the strategic importance, and for us, of course, we need to be able to have the information we need to take informed decisions and to improve our functioning, so both on the data policy, data for policy, and also on the administrative workings of the Commission. Also to be transparent with citizens, that's a very strong driver for the new Commission, and provide European citizens with the services that they need, including administrations. To do so, what we did was we've been setting up activities inside the Commission, starting with a steering group on information and knowledge management, and then voluntary cooperation between services that think that are interested in managing data and information, who have formed a voluntary coordination and cooperation group. So all the initiatives on analytics have started from this group of Directors General. And the steering group on information management, knowledge management is at Director General level. So it really has a high importance in the Commission. So the main goal, of course, is to become a data-driven organization. And for our objectives, policy objectives, this is really, really important, as I mentioned already. You can imagine the areas of jobs, growth and investment, digital single market, and migration, where there's a lot of data involved, and we need to manage to read this data properly, analyze the data properly in order to be able to know what is happening and what could be the next steps forward. That means that we need to improve the way, really critically improve the way that we capture and consume both internal and external data. So the problems that we have in this are the same as many other organizations. Not all the relevant data is available inside the Commission, and the internal data we have is often available only in parts of the organization and not connected and not accessible to other parts of the organization. And we still, like most organizations, are quite limited in terms of capabilities of analytics, both in terms of technology, skills, and processes. But the good news is that there's a lot of innovation going on, a lot of experimentation going on. So that was our starting point, to put together the experimentation that is already going on inside the Commission. So our objectives was, of course, to maximize the use of data in order to support the life cycle and internal functioning of the Commission. And here you see the 3 steps that we are looking at. So the experimentation that I mentioned that is coming bottom up, experimentation with technologies. Then federating the capacities, capabilities that we have inside the Commission, and creating the platforms we can use from, we can work from and to use for this experimentation. And then we also see, of course, in the future, consolidation of all these steps into an ecosystem that actually is building on data, built on data itself. So that's a new paradigm. If we go then to the experimentation with technology, what are we doing? Well, analytics serves different phases in the decision making, from very descriptive to prescriptive, the whole chain. And the technologies we are using for different stages here so far are, we're trying everything we know about, that is data mining, text mining, machine learning, sentiment analysis, and data visualization. And that's only the start. And by combining these different technologies, we're trying to see what are the user needs that we need to serve and how to combine them in the best way. And I'll show you a couple of examples of tools that we are already experimenting with. Well, this is actually beyond experimentation. We're using this tool. And when I say we, I talk about the Commission. These are done by different services, as I said from the beginning. This particular tool, Doris, comes from DG Connect. And we have taken over the management and the running of it. It is a tool that is devised to analyze citizen feedback. And this is very important in the better regulation initiative of the Commission, to really listen to citizens with wide stakeholder consultations at an early phase of decision making. And here we're using all the different techniques that I mentioned. You see the different outputs from that here, the sentiment analysis, the visualization of different inputs. And of course, why it's important is that for many stakeholder consultations, we get as much as up to 500,000 replies. And there's no way we can analyze this without using the analytics technique. So this has become very crucial. And it's also being used, all of these tools are also accessible to member states. So this is spreading very fast, this particular tool called Doris. And it's on the Better Regulation portal of the Commission itself, the central portal. We're also, this is another experimentation that we've done that is on the job market. So vacancy notices for IT jobs, where we've been able to identify where the jobs are, what is required to get a job, what are the most common expectations of candidates, from our candidates, in terms of education, background, etc. What do the salaries look like in different parts of the union as well. Here is an experimentation that's been done together with Madrid, the community of Madrid, on social inclusion. I'll go fast through the projects in order to leave also some space to my fellow panelists here. And then the last one, which is an internal tool that we've devised for the Commission administration to see how we network inside the Commission. Also in terms of new ways of working that is heavily supported by our President Juncker. The Commission needs to connect much better, network much better, to find synergies inside the Commission. You know already about the domains that were created with the Vice Presidents, and this is really a recurring theme inside the Commission, that we need to connect better. So we've been able to analyze much better how we do that with the help of analytics as well. So I was talking about federating capabilities. That's one of the main drivers that we're working on inside, to make sure that we are not overlapping inside the Commission. So what happens normally in a big organization like the Commission is, of course, everybody goes in their own, everybody experiments with new technologies, with new ideas, and then we go in different directions and we don't see what the synergies are. Here we have the advantage that this is a new domain, it's an emerging domain where we could start very early with the cooperation and collaboration. So what we're doing is trying to get away from the silo mentality and actually see what we do across the Commission and gather that in a federated way. And this is exactly as our President has said, to promote the new ways of working, to promote teamwork and overcome silo mentalities, harness synergies between portfolios, and give more visibility to the work that is done and the ability to reuse in other parts of the service what we have been doing. So the idea is that we will build on everything that has been done by different services, bottom up, and federate that into a catalogue. So the catalogue will be available to end users and to practitioners of big data inside the European Commission. And it's not only about technology solutions and tools, but it's also advisory services. So if I want to do this sort of research or investigation, what do I need in terms of tools, in terms of advice, in terms of services and expertise? So how do I get there? And it's also about how to manage the data you need in order to perform the analysis. So it's the whole range of ideas that are needed to go forward. We're also in this context, of course, this is a little bit within brackets. We're also looking at now in the data for policy context. So for the next programming period after 2020, when we have a new legislative framework, what is needed to be put into the legislation in order to make sure that we have the data available that we need to do this, use analytics to the best extent possible? What data needs to be available and in which format? And of course, the benefits are very obvious. It's homogeneity and quality, economies of scale, reuse of resources and scaling up is possible, and the support post-service in order to make sure that people can get the help they need to actually try out, and also service quality to monitor what's going on. So how have we done this? How are we doing this, making this catalog? Well, we started by user needs research. Talk to people across the Commission about what is needed. What do they need to do? Where could they use these techniques? And how can we help them with that? And what tools would be useful for them? Then we've identified the service offering across the Commission as well. And we're matching this into this catalog. And we now have a mock-up of the catalog. So the catalog is already there. I'll show you a couple of pages. This is the user interface, which is very user-friendly. You see immediately the different aspects, tools, data, experts. You can browse through it and see what is there for you. You also have the different services with the search function to be able to find what you need. And this is an example with the first tool I showed you, the Doris tool on citizen consultations. How you use it, what you need, and anything you need to know actually to be able to use the service itself. And of course, we've been using standardized methodologies in order to get to the catalog. So the next step after the federated catalog is to create a platform. A data platform to fully exploit the data that we have at the Commission. And one part of this is a test bed, so a big test infrastructure, the big data test infrastructure to be used by the European Commission, but also by public administration. So many member states are involved in this work. It's an ISA project under the Interoperability Solutions. I need to speed up. So this is available both to public administrations and member states and to inside the European Commission. I will skip this because it's obvious what we're doing there. It's adoption and it's the sharing of both the resources and the artifacts. And where we are is that the catalog, sorry, the big test infrastructure platform will be available next year. So we are now running a new wave of pilot projects, next steps, The catalog will be launched early 2018, just after Christmas. We are setting up the big data test infrastructure for availability in 2018. And we are also experimenting with data lakes inside the Commission to create the future ecosystem for analytics. Thank you for your attention. Next speaker.